We're nearing the end of our isolated practice on moving the decimals when you're dividing with the decimal in the divisor. We've got one more lesson on it after this, but hopefully it's sinking in well. You can never be too confident with skills like this. Let's begin. We are doing the entire column on the right. We'll do those together. And remember, as you can see, there's not room to solve these. This page is just practice on nothing more than moving the decimals. Remember, the divisor is the number you're dividing by. It always comes after the division symbol. And once again on this page, it's in bold. Here's my divisor. It needs to be a whole number. In order to make it a whole number, I've got to move the decimal 2 places. If I move it 2 places here, I have to also move it here to keep my answer consistent. So I move it here and make it 7. I move it here 2 places, and I've got 175. It gives me 2 whole numbers. This is how I'll set it up. $175 divided by 7. Number 2, or at least down, the second one we're doing. Once again, we've got to move the decimal 2 places. When we move it here 2 places, we get to move it here 2 places. Isn't it interesting that, once again, we get 2 whole numbers? Interesting how that worked out. When we set it up, we get 31 divided by 5. If you were dividing this for real, since it doesn't go in evenly, you'll then put a decimal here and add your zeros until you divide it out, since there's not one already here. Just because we have so many with moving the decimal twice, I want to go over and do this one right here with you, 4.2 divided by 0.12. I feel like, wait, no, that's moving it 2 places also. Let's continue on to here. 165 divided by 1.5. Here we go, I found one. We move the decimal here 1 place to make it whole, so we have to move it here 1 place. We end up still having a decimal in that. Our decimal goes between the 6 and the 5 when we move it 1 place. So when we set up our division, in order to do long division, we end up with 16.5 divided by 15. So we did an extra together. On to our column. This one is kind of interesting. Notice after the decimal symbol, after the decimal, you only have a 0. That means you don't really have a decimal, do you? It's already a whole number. So you don't have to move the decimal here. You don't have to move the decimal here. When you set this up, this is even kind of funny, you get 1.65 divided by 1. I bet you can solve that one in your head. That's an interesting one, easy one. It maybe looks harder than it is, and it's just that. Ha! All right. Down to the last 2 we'll do together. Both of these we moved the decimal twice. Yeah, it worked out that way, didn't it? That the entire column, we move them all twice, except that one, which we don't move at all. We needed to find one where you move the decimal just once. All right, to prove they exist on here. Anyhow, so on this one, we move the decimal twice. And when we do, we move this one twice, which gives us a whole number here. Yes, definitely needed to do others. So this becomes 12 into 282. You know what, I'm going to do this one too, just because I feel like I'm not representing this page very well. On this one, 0.814 divided by 1.1, You move the decimal one place to make a whole. That becomes 11. Then you move this one place, which is 8.14. So we'll set this up like, I want to make sure I have enough room, like this. 11 into 8.14, just like that. So you have that decimal. Okay, now, promise, last one, right here. 17 and a half, 17.5 divided by 7/100. Move the decimal one, 2 places here. You move it 2 places here. Notice you don't have 2 places. So what you'll have to do is 1, and the next one's going to be a 0. So you end up with 1,750 into 7. So we'll set it up like this. 1,750. The only way to move the decimal 2 places was to add a 0 in there. So that is this page. This page we divide for real. I'm going to help you set up number 4, and then we'll do 2 on this side. Got my little papers ready to show you the problems. You may not be able to fit your long division work on this page. If not, attach a scrap paper. Make sure that you have your work and you show it. Otherwise, as far as I know, you use the calculator, so I need to see your work. On number 4, all I'm going to have you do is set up the division, and then you can go from there. You are dividing 0.0464 divided by 0.14. That's a funky looking 4, isn't it? To make this a whole number, this is your divisor. You move the decimal over 2 places. If you move it over 2 places here, then you have to also move it 2 places over here. Doesn't matter if we have a decimal over here. So let's go 1, 2. So it's after the 6. Boy, that's hard to see. I'm going to write it neatly. On this black surface I write on, it's really hard to keep a sharp pencil. Soft surfaces aren't conducive to very fine writing, and so it seems to make my writing even messier. 46.4. 46.4. There we go. This is one reason it's important to rewrite it neatly after you move those around, because it can be difficult to see with all your little squiggles up there, or like all my squiggles. It might be hard to see where the decimal is. So I always want you to rewrite it after you move the decimal. Even if the problem is already written in this form and you move the decimals here, rewrite it again so that the decimals are exactly where they need to be to do the answer. Number 5. Got a big one. So in here you have 2 decimal places that you need to move it to get the divisor decimal free. So we move it 2 places. We have 23. We move this 2 places. We have 117.76. Make sure I did that right. Yeah, okay. Now we can begin to divide. And I'm going to take you through this on numbers 5 and 7. 23 does not go into 1, does not go into 11, but it does go into 117. Now I'm going to think of this as 25, because 25 is an easy number. It's like quarters. There are 4 quarters in $1, so there are 4 25s in 100. Since 25 would go into 125 5 times, 23 will either go into this 4 times or 5 times. It's going to be close. So I'm just going to kind of go off to the side and figure it out. 23 times 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 2 is 8. This one is 9, 92. That would be 8. All right, so I think there's more than 23 left to get that. So just to be sure, I'm going to do it 23 times 5. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 2 is 10. This one is 11. Ah, very close. It's a very close one. 115, 5 times. When we subtract, we get 2. Bring down that 7. 23 goes into 27. That's easy. 1 time. 1 times 23 is 23. I subtract, I get 4. Haha. Bring down the 6, 46. That's obviously twice. 23 goes into 46 2 times. 2 times 23 is 46. I have my answer. It's not finished yet because I've got to take that decimal and put it up in my quotient. So the quotient of this is 5 and 12 hundredths. Take a moment and make sure that everything you have agrees with everything that I have. And then we'll go on to number 7. All right. Number 7. We only need to move the decimal 1 place to make this a whole number. So we move it 1 place over here. That gives us 32 into 77.52. Got excited on my line, didn't I? Who knows, maybe it won't go evenly. I'll have to add some zeros. 32, let's think. This would be 64 twice. So it's going to be twice. It does not go into 7. It goes into 77 twice. One reason I like to put my 0 up there is to make sure I get all of my digits lined up right there. It's really important when you're doing decimals that you've got those digits in the very right place. If you don't, if you get off, then when you move your decimal straight up, you'll move it to the wrong place. So that's why I like to make sure I put that 0 there. 2 times 32 is 64. Subtract. Bring down the 5, 135. Okay, I'm going to think of that as 33. 33 goes into 100 3 times. 33, 66, 99. So that's obviously 4. This is not even close, so this is an easy one. 4 times 32. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. I subtract. (15 minus 8 is 7. Bring down the 2. I believe that I may have to continue. Let's see. 32 goes into 72 2 times. 2 times 32 is 64. Well, I gotta add some zeros. Well, you know what? It's good that I got ambitious on this line. Looks like I need some zeros. I was just sort of kidding. I thought they all came out evenly. 80. 32 goes into 80 2 times. When I subtract, I get 16. Still have a remainder. Bring down another 0. Let's see. 32 goes into 128 4 times. 5? I think 5. Let's try it. Let me just write it here. 32 times 5. 15. Oh, we got it. We made it to the end. Okay. 32 goes into 165 times. 5 times 32 is 160. We did it. So we did have to add 2 zeros, but that's okay because we already had a decimal in it, so it was no big deal. So our answer is not complete until we take this decimal up and put it right there. The quotient of this is 2 and 4,225 10,000ths, or as most people say, 2.4225. So we did that one together, and you see how we had to continue dividing. There may be others that will require you to keep going and to stick the 0 on, so be prepared for that.